Just going to rock cold readings this morning since it is oh so very cold. Abstinence. Experience strength and hope from the members of Overeaters Anonymous. Freedom of choice. Nearly 9 years ago, at my first OA meeting, I was introduced to the concept of abstinence. It took the form of enthusiastic applause from members at the mention of any length of abstinence, from day one to umpteenth years. At the break, some members explained to me that abstinence was refraining from eating compulsively. That didn't mean much to me, but I kept coming back because those people had something I wanted. I just wasn't sure what it was. During the next 4 months, I learned many things about our common disease, not the least of which was that one symptom is perfectionism. This is one of my most devastating character defects. As a perfectionist, I set unbearably difficult standards for myself, and just as I am about to attain them, I redefine an even more difficult standard. I learned early on, and am still convinced, that the pursuit of perfection is a wasteful, stressful preoccupation. Many members offered me some valuable insight into perfectionism and gave excellent examples of the toll it had taken in their lives and the steps they had taken to make progress in this area. But for many OA members, there was apparently one exception to the process of becoming less of a perfectionist, and that was in regard to abstinence. I continued to hear more about abstinence at every OA meeting, but it seemed not everyone defined abstinence the same way. I heard about perfect back-to-back abstinence. This term received the loudest and longest applause. I also heard about gray sheet abstinence, sloppy abstinence, human abstinence, moderate meal abstinence, and abstinence qualified by a host of other adjectives. In those days, there often was little, if any, distinction between abstinence and diet. Most troubling to me was the unspoken notion that one was worthy in the eyes of OA only if one's abstinence was perfect. I began to see people dropping out when they broke their abstinence or if they couldn't achieve the perfect back-to-back variety. The longer I'm in OA, the more convinced I am that there are many paths that one can successfully travel to attain spiritual awakening mentioned in the 12th step. For me, this also holds true for abstinence. At the 1988 World Service Business Conference, a statement on abstinence was adopted that read, in part, according to the dictionary, abstinence means turn the page. Wow, this is a really long one. Abstinence means to refrain from. In Overeaters Anonymous, abstinence means to refrain from compulsive overeating. This was not new to me, as this was the concept I'd first heard in OA. I think nearly everyone in the program agrees that to be abstinence means that you don't eat compulsively. Where there is disagreement is in the many differing views of what compulsive eating entails. I haven't seen a definition of compulsive overeating, nor do I recall any attempt by OA as a whole to address this issue. To me, compulsive eating or overeating is eating to feed my disease, not my body's nutritional needs. Therefore, I am abstinent when I eat to feed my body and not my disease. This concept has become my ideal of abstinence. It is a goal I can never achieve perfectly, nor do I attempt to do so. I don't imagine there is a person alive who eats strictly for nourishment at all times. To be physically abstinent, I only have to follow the food plan I choose for myself each day as best as I am able. I strongly believe that if food were my sole problem, I would not be a compulsive overeater. Why? Why I turn to food and compulsive eating, that is the basis of my disease. Binging, obesity, and eating in secret are but physical manifestations of my disease, which I have come to realize is emotional and spiritual. Emotionally, I found that my reactions to my feelings, not the feelings themselves, are important components of my disease. Everyone has feelings. That's part of being human. But my reactions to my feelings were usually childish, negative, and self destructive, and resulted in overeating. Working this program aids my emotional recovery by showing me how to deal with my feelings in a positive, adult, self loving way. Practicing abstinence is one way to do this. Spiritually, I believe my compulsive overeating resulted from my building barriers to keep my higher power out of my life. Abstinence removes these barriers and puts me in constant, conscious contact with my higher power. Perfect emotional and spiritual abstinence is not attainable, just as perfect physical abstinence is not attainable. In OA, we are free to follow any eating plan we choose. If we need a strict, weighed and measured diet, we can have it. If we need to avoid only specific food, that's what we can do. If we need to change our whole approach because of changes in our health or any other aspect of our lives, we make that change. No one in OA disputes another's individual approach to emotional recovery, and certainly there is unquestioned tolerance regarding the choice of a higher power. Why then is there often encroachment on an individual's approach to physical recovery? A slogan I heard at my first meeting was progress, not perfection. I see this as applying to food as to every other aspect of the OA program. The more we as a fellowship take such an approach, the more people will recover. I'm sad to say that I've known some members who gave up on OA and themselves because they couldn't live up to someone else's concept of abstinence. Our responsibility pledge says always to extend the hand and heart of OA to all who share our compulsion. For this I am responsible. It doesn't say to all who share my food plan or higher power or any other aspect of life. All I need to know about a person who comes to OA is that he or she is a compulsive overeater. That tells it all. In the big book story entitled He Who Loses His Life, the author makes the following statement about the AA philosophy. I have seen that there is only one law, the law of love, and there are only two sins. The first is to interfere with the growth of another human being, and the second is to interfere with one's own growth. I hope and pray that OA can adopt the philosophy as its own. And that's from Overland Park, Kansas. Okay, that was a long one. Have a great day. Stay warm. I hope your pipes are not frozen like mine.